this evening as I call the Unified Government KCK Landmarks Commission to order this evening on March 1st, 2021. I would like to welcome everyone here. I think it has been a very difficult year, but that we've had, but I do want to thank everyone who has participated and everyone who has given their input to this Landmarks Commission accolades this year. And I would also like at this point to express my appreciation to our dear secretary,
Here.
Miss Janet Parker, for everything that she has done to keep us in touch. And I would like also to express my gratitude and accolades to the entire Unified Government staff as they have participated in the trying times of our past year. That being said, welcome to everyone, and I will call it to order. And at this point, I will go to the presentation of Dr. Greg Mosier, president of the Kansas City, Kansas Community College, for his input and what he has for our Landmarks Commission. Thank you, Dr. Mosier.
Great, and thank you, Chairman Meditz. I appreciate this opportunity to present to you and the commission, the Landmarks Commission. We truly have an exciting project that we're looking at with the college in the downtown area, and it does have an impact on the community and also one of the county landmarks. So with that, if you don't mind, I will proceed and share my screen and move into the presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Mosier. Continue. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. If I can have screen sharing privileges, please. Thank you.
Dr. Mosier, you should be able to share.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. All right. All right, very good. Well, thank you so much for that. And again, thank you to the Landmarks Commission and the UG staff for putting this evening together and providing this opportunity to present. We have a very exciting project at the college we have been working on for almost 2 years now, and that's the development of a downtown community education center. The vision of the center is to provide hope, end generational poverty, improve the quality of life, and increase the socioeconomic mobility of our residents living in and around downtown Kansas City, Kansas. And we believe we have the ability to do that, particularly because of the strong partnerships that we've been developing over these last 2 years, working hand in hand with Kansas City, Kansas Public Schools, the YMCA, High Aspirations, which is a youth mentorship group, the University of Kansas, Wyandotte Behavioral Health Network, and of course the college. I want to give a little bit of an overview, and I'll keep it rather brief. I know many have seen the presentation, but for those who haven't, to give a perspective of what we're looking at. The college was founded in 1923, so almost 100 years ago, on 9th and State. That's the image of the Hardwood campus. And we're looking at returning to our roots 100 years later. These other images show some our football field, or I'm sorry, the soccer field where our main campus is, the Technical Education Center on the top right, and the bottom right, our campus up in Leavenworth. We serve about 9,000 students annually, both in credit and non-credit programs. Last year, we conferred over 1,100 degrees and certificates, And we're actually the third largest community college in the state of Kansas. And I think that's rather significant that most people are not aware of. As you probably all are very well aware of, in Kansas City, the greater KC area, we have a tremendous skills gap where we have incredible jobs available, but we just don't have the workforce trained to acquire and maintain those jobs. I share this image with you. It's done by the Mark Corporation, and it highlights manufacturing, construction, transportation, and warehousing, as those are the programs, the key programs we're looking at focusing on in the downtown center. These jobs pay about $44,000 a year on average, some are much higher. About 50% of the workforce is planned to retire in the next 5 or so years. And most of the positions don't require a 4-year degree. So it's a perfect opportunity for the college to reach out and help people with training in these areas and for our community. As you know, Wyandotte County has seen a tremendous amount of growth these last 10 years. It continues past this map, but I pulled off of Jobs EQ, which is a state website that identifies the jobs available in the different areas. And for Wyandotte County, and I pulled this on February 15th, there were 5,339 jobs available. The median pay is almost $39,000 a year. And I'll be glad to send this presentation out. I see people taking notes, and I appreciate that. But I'll send a PDF of this so you have all the information as well. An average salary of about $45,000. So that's pretty good in the middle of a global pandemic. And if we look at our current per capita earnings for our residents in Wyandotte County, it's only $22,000 a year. So as you can see, if we can get more of our neighbors and our community into the workforce, we can offer them a life-changing position. I serve on both the boards of the KCK Chamber of Commerce and the Wyandotte Economic Development Council. This last year, again, in the middle of a global pandemic, we brought in nearly $903 million of capital investment into Wyandotte County. So that's projects like the new Amazon Center that is coming in and getting set up. It doesn't include Menards or Wilson Crane, and it also doesn't include Urban Outfitters, which is a $400 million project. So tremendous investment into Wyandotte County. So we have thousands of jobs that are available, the third highest wages of all counties in Kansas. But here's where we get into some of the areas where we struggle in the county. This is also information from Mark. And they did a study in 2019 of the 70,000 jobs that are available of people working in Wyandotte County. Only 29% of the people live in Wyandotte County. So what that means is 71% of all of the income that's generated in the county, every Friday afternoon, it hops in the car with someone and it drives back to Johnson, Jackson, our surrounding counties. So it leaves us, and it keeps our neighbors living in poverty. So from a county perspective, and unified government perspective, if we are able to have more of our neighbors trained in the areas the jobs are available, if we just went to 50-50%, so 50% outside residents of Wyandotte and 50% Wyandotte residents working in Wyandotte County, we would generate $518 million per year in additional revenue staying in the county. That's a big goal, 50-50. So if we brought it up from 29% to 39%, we would have nearly $250,000 per year staying in Wyandotte County. That means people could afford houses better, they could afford vehicles, they could afford better health care, and everything that goes along with that. So this is a strong economic argument for why we are looking at doing what we're doing. But we are also looking after the health and the social benefits as well. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, every year they put out a county health ranking. So in the state of Kansas, although Wyandotte County, again, has the third highest weekly wage in the state, we are last. We rank 104 out of 104 counties when it comes to overall health, quality of life, health factors, and socioeconomic factors. So we generate all this money in Wyandotte County, but our neighbors and our residents are living in poverty and poor health. So it's a secondary reason why we really need to do what we're doing. I'm going to throw some numbers out there across the county, but I'd really like for you to focus on that red box that's in the center, because there's a lot of numbers to try and look at, but this tells the picture between the western side of the county and the eastern side of the county. So in the blue box, we have 4 western zip codes, and in this red box, we have the 6 eastern zip codes. In this top area here, if we look at people who do not have employable English skills, in the Piper area, there's 1,004. But when we cross this line, that's 72nd and 75th Street, there's 3,471. So it increases, the English language skills decreased by 150%. In the last report, it was 250%. And it's not because the eastern side of the county improved. It's because 66109 went from about 500 to 1,000. So the number of people with English language skills is decreasing. If we look at adults age 25 and over, working full-time, more than 40 hours a week, living in poverty, you can see when you cross from the west to the east, there's nearly a 200% increase of the adults working full-time, living in poverty. If we take that one step further, and if we look at our children, the future of our county, the future of our state and our country, between the west and the east, with these zip codes, children living in poverty is nearly 250% higher. And that's something that I don't believe any of us should be sitting around and just not doing anything about it. And one more, if we look, we'll just focus on post-secondary education attainment. So that's in the yellow boxes. On the eastern side, in Piper, there's about 30% of the people who have a 2-year degree or higher. But on Northeast Kansas City, KCK, there's only 10%. And if anyone kind of specializes in employability and job skill levels, the top right-hand corner is what we call jobs by skill level. Middle skill jobs are where the community colleges focus. So in this pie, 15% of the jobs in the state require a high school diploma or less. 29% require a bachelor's degree or more, but 50 to 55% require more than a high school diploma and less than a 4-year degree. So basically, we're saying a community college certificate or degree. And that's where we thrive in our work. So for 2 years, I've been asking people as I present this information around the community, and I look at here where the KCK logo is, and I say, well, how come we're not right here? Why are we not here where the people need us the most? It's 6.7 miles from this location to where our location is currently. But if you're a single parent and you have 1 or 2 children and you're working 2 jobs and you're working around a babysitter, you can't get from here to here. It might as well be 67 miles. So we have made a commitment to come downtown and really provide education and other opportunities where the people really need it the most. So we believe that we can bridge this educational divide. We can work with individuals who are currently, they're unemployed, they have food and housing insecurity, they're in poor health, they're living in generational poverty, and we can provide the education and training through this new center that will move them into employment and careers, not just jobs, where they can live more healthy, they can start accumulating wealth and prosperity and have social mobility. So while we have a lot of challenges, our greatest challenges are really often our greatest opportunities. So now I want to share some images with you about the center that we are proposing for downtown KCK. This is the primary focus of the area from an educational perspective. And why we're here tonight is this grand entry is it sits exactly where the 7th Street AME Church currently sits. So this is 7th Street running north and south, and this is State Avenue running east and west. We have a partner building, which is on the corner of 7th and Nebraska. And then we have labs running down this way. So I'll show you each of those. But knowing what we know, KCKCC in this center wants to offer ESL, GED training, administrative office professional, because there are 200 administrative assistant positions available in the county almost all the time. Advanced manufacturing or automation engineering, transfer degrees, sciences, biomanufacturing, and a commercial construction technology program, and a lot more. And as you see, we're partnering with KU. So KU will provide biotechnology, community outreach, social work, business programs, and they will offer degree completion for KCKCC's programs. And this side, and I love the beauty of the buildings, and I think they will inspire and draw people in. This is our partner building, and this is where we look at when we're going to go downtown. We ask people, what do you want us to bring? What type of programs and services? Well, they said, well, we struggle. We have some PTSD. We are not in good health. We need some counseling services. We need childcare. What are you going to do about that? So that's why it's a community education center, because we're offering those wraparound services with our partners. So the first floor is the YMCA, who has been looking for a place to return to downtown KCK since they lost their building in 2018. And the second floor is Wyandotte Behavioral Health. And this will help answer some of the other social factors that we struggle with. So the YMCA is planning to offer nutrition, eating healthy, exercise, weight control, youth enrichment, child watch for people who are going to class, and a variety of programs. Wyandotte Behavioral Health is doing individual, group, and family therapy, outpatient counseling, which they currently don't have a location in downtown KCK. And I don't think I have the slide here, but we're actually talking with another third partner for this area, who is a comprehensive health provider, an FHQC, about a third floor on this building, which would be a great opportunity for downtown. as you come from 7th Street and you're driving east on State Avenue, these are large construction and advanced manufacturing labs. And those are the two programs that will be offered there, because you saw the number of jobs that are available and good paying jobs in those areas. You may see a box here where people are walking out of. Because of the slope of the property, we are looking to put in underground parking, which will help with the parking congestion. And this tall building here in the center, that's our access point, so people can come in and get vertical access to all the floors of the center. And then you'll see there's a building off to the right here. That's our 4th partner. And that's High Aspirations. They're currently in KCMO, but they're looking to expand into KCK. They currently provide mentoring services and youth mentorship to African American males aged 8 to 18. When they come into KCK, they will offer mentoring, and any young man who would like to join the program is welcome. So they will expand their focus. It's interesting, since 2015, every person who has gone through High Aspirations and completed it, 100% have graduated from high school and are looking at college, or attended college, or looking at some other opportunities. So it's a really successful program. The project itself creates 48 new jobs for downtown. So we're providing economic advantages for that as well. And the community impact that we'll have is really tremendous. These are our partners, and these are some draft numbers. So in the first 3 years or so, we'll be servicing about 4,000, 5,000 people a year. And as we move into more of our fuller capacity, we're at almost 12,000 people a year, community impact. So I'll move into, one of the main reasons why we're here tonight, and is to talk about the location, the 7th Street AME Church and the surrounding areas. The red outline marks the footprint of the building. So where the church currently sits is that educational stack. This area, the parking lot, is the YMCA and Wyandotte Behavioral Health. And then the large technical labs running down this way. So 2 really key points for conversation tonight. One is the church, and the other is the Willa Gill food kitchen. So the UG and I have, for a long time now, we said we're not going to disrupt services to anyone who is coming to Willa Gill in need of food. So a lot of people ask that question. As you can see, it's not within the red boundary lines. At some point, the UG is looking at some other plans to maybe provide some food services on the northern part of the county and the southern part of the county, and do things a little differently. At that point, then the college would like to acquire this property as well. It's all in the land bank, and then do something. We would have that for expansion. So we're looking at a downtown city block that currently has, quite a bit of blight in it, and transitioning it to a really vibrant downtown community. And I know this shows a lot of rooftop, but you saw what the building designs are for that. So it will be transformational for downtown KCK. But I'm also a firm believer that we have to be able to preserve the history of our community and be able to tell that story for generations to come. I love this picture on the left, and it's one of the few photos that I've found so far about the church back in the early 1900s. And I did not know that it had a spire on it at one point in time. So this is the church soon after it was built. And then this is a photo of the church. You can see it's not boarded up yet though. So it's in a little better repair than it currently sits. Unfortunately, it has sat vacant for many years, 30 years or so, I'm hearing. And the building is really deteriorating beyond repair. I'll have some other images, but you can see the bricks are separating, the joints are coming apart and almost getting pushed apart. The wood is rotten. As we go inside, you'll see there's a lot of rot inside as well. So after the church went into the land bank a few weeks ago, I went down to look at the building and take some photographs. And this opening here is actually where people are going in and out of the church building. So as you come in, you can kind of see how they've excavated their own some space here. There's a crawl hole here, I think, where they can go down and get out of the cold a little bit, which I absolutely understand. This is one of the downstairs rooms with a lot of rot. And a close-up of another area where you can see that just the wood is deteriorating from the rot and decay. In my previous life, I was actually an industrial photographer. So I enjoy taking photographs, but when I was looking at the tower a little bit closer a couple of weeks ago, I really noticed how these joints are getting kind of blown apart by expansion of frozen water and such. And it's also somewhat concerning because this whole portion of this tower is leaning. Here's underneath some of the window sills where you can see the building is cracking, and it's just beyond repair. This is inside. So you can see that there are people living inside, but what I was really pleasantly surprised with, there is not one broken piece of stained glass in this church that I found. It's all intact. The people have taken really good care of it, I have to say. They've been very respectful to the building, but it is an occupied building at this time. It was really dark, so I had a flashlight to take these photos. In here, I'm taking the photos because of the intricate trim work that is inside the church. So as we look at how do we pay tribute to the church, I'm looking for architectural elements and items that we can take and physically put into the new structure. So this intricate trim, and you can see the stained glass above these doorways, is something that I believe we could use to help continue to tell the story of the church. I'm a very detailed person, so as I'm looking around, and it may be harder to see on your screen, but you can see there is a very large, and it's about a 6 by 12 inch solid wood beam. I am pretty sure that this is one of the original beams that was holding up the second floor of that church and where it was sitting on some other posts. This is where I zoomed in, and it's almost like a burnt in signature. So probably the person or the company that built this beam for the church. One time, I do want to get in there and try and find that, try and be able to decipher what that name is. But I see that beam being a beautiful wood exposed beam, going across. You'll see this transition area in the building. And these are the things we want to capture, and we want to tell that story, and we want to learn who this wood company was as well. I do. So we're working with PGAB architects. They're the ones that have done the renderings that you've seen so far. They've done this tribute history wall that's in Union Station. And I would propose that we do something similar inside the new building to help tell the history of the church, both in words and in pictures. I came across this history book, the building and the beginning of the church. And then I noticed it was published in 1915. So great, rich history about it, but it's 100 years from then. So we have some history to learn as well. Found a photo of the bronze plaque. Not that that's a, I mean, it would be an important item to add. I don't know if it's around, or we could have that recreated to be placed on the wall somewhere to help tell that story. Now, picture this image in your mind, this tribute history wall. When you come into this grand entry, you can see there's a wall here that is in between the lobby area and the classroom. Now, these are just suggestions. The interior design of this building is not yet set in stone, but I would look for hard surfaces in the entry area and other prominent areas where we could tell the story and the history of the church. So this is where I was just showing you in the illustration. This is 7th Street and State Avenue here. So a history wall right here. So people could come into the entryway and they could see this. We could look at the brick, the red brick on the floor of the entryway. And now we'll move into some of the areas where I think we could pay a very respectful and comprehensive tribute to the church. When I was inside the other week, a couple weeks ago, there is a room, and these pews have been stacked in there. Who knows how long they've been in there, but they're in pretty good shape. I'd like to see those restored. And those pews could be used as banquettes in the lobby area, in the art gallery, down a hallway. So if we were to restore these, we could have them. So we're actually kind of inside the church in a way. These would be just some areas I would look at placing those pews. So in where people come and sit, and they're in the waiting area. This is the art gallery, so people could sit in the pews and they could enjoy the art. Here's another one here. And as you walk to the right, you see open to atrium below. There's a hallway that goes to those large construction and manufacturing labs, a big grand hallway. See here the transition from the atrium to this technical area. And I could see these pews, depending on how many are restorable, again, continuing along this way. And these are just suggestions. That big wooden beam, as we transition from this really beautiful forum and atrium, and we transition into a more technical side of the building, I could see that exposed beam, there, and something telling the story. If we could find information on who the maker of that beam was, we could tell that story on this wall. So I'm a very visual person, so you have to. Again, the stained glass in the area in the building it's in very good condition visually. So as we take down the church, we do it very carefully, and we save these stained glass windows. This circular one is just beautiful, so I can't wait to see the light coming through that. But we integrate those, into the building. Now, this shows a stained glass wall. I'm not really recommending that, but there's so much beautiful light in that building. I'll show you some areas where I think we could put some of these stained glass pieces. And then this image of the church just is just strongly embedded into my memory. So in the glass that we have somewhere, I can see this etched into the glass. So it's kind of like a hologram of the church. It's the key attributes. I think that would be beautiful as well. So these are some areas that I think we could look at the stained glass. This wall here was also where I had the history tribute wall. And up higher on that wall could be a piece of stained glass letting light into this classroom. And here as well, some dividing walls in the hallways. And then over on the bottom right-hand corner between the gallery and the atrium, there's going to be so much light in there. It would just throw color everywhere, I think. And there's that exposed beam area. Some of the other structural items I would like to see if we could repurpose are the caps on the church. I believe they're concrete, but I don't know that for a fact. The stone chiseled foundation stones, I think those could be out front, kind of boxing in some planters where we want to have some vegetation. They could also be just stones sitting out front that are stacked that people could sit on. And we could tell the story on those with plaques and such. And here's just something that PGAV sent as well, you know, to build something out of the reclaimed brick. This indicates some areas where I could see the foundation stones used to provide the perimeter for vegetation. And we look at other hard surfaces so that we can tell the story of the church. And I believe as a community college, it's our responsibility to do this, to help tell the story so it will continue for generations to come. So I would offer to the commission that the building is in such disrepair, it's really not something that is affordable to be rebuilt. And it just the safety considerations around that. But we really want to provide a tribute to the church in a very meaningful and impactful way. So this is a combination slide. If we look at some of the elements that we've just talked about tonight, so we have the repurposed foundation stones as planter boxes or sitting stones on the outside. We have a main history wall as you enter into the lobby. We have the refurbished pews that are actually usable and functional within the building. And you can see how this builds out. The stained glass integrated into the building structure itself as well. And then that exposed beam, and I'm sure there'll be other beams and such in there. I look forward to going inside again and taking more of an inventory from this sort of aspect. So we understand and we appreciate the history of the church, and we believe that we could pay tribute to it in a very meaningful way. And both of these buildings are truly, this will be historical buildings for the downtown Kansas City, Kansas. So as you look towards this project and making considerations for the allowed build of this incredible project downtown, I really believe it provides the commission an incredible opportunity to help change the downtown for generations to come, while we can still tell the story of the 7th Street AME Church. I provide this so you can see the cost of the project. It's a $60 million build. about 48 million in construction and 12 million in FF&E. And again, circling back to the beginning, we really think this will be a building that will provide hope in the end generational poverty for downtown KCK. And with that, I thank you for allowing me this much time, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions the commission may have.
Thank you, Dr. Mosier. I very much appreciate the in-depth that you have put out there. At this point in time, I will open it up to my fellow commissioners. Does anyone have questions or comments they would like to direct to Dr. Mosier?
I have several questions, please. Commissioner Meditz, Chair Meditz.
Okay, Commissioner Hill?
Dean Mosier, first of all, am I correct that this facility is going to be more like an AVTS than traditional classrooms like Comp 1 psychology, or is it a combination thereof?
It is a combination of both. We'll have sciences, we'll have AA transfer, we'll have general ed, we have an art area, and we have the technical areas.
Okay. The second one is the survey, and this is not to dismiss you, sir, or what's been done at all. Please do not take it that way. But has there been an independent survey done of the property to back up your analysis of its status?
Of the church itself? You
Yes,
mean
sir.
an engineering survey?
Yes, sir.
Not at this time.
Okay. And then another question that comes to concern is how are you, this is a very modern looking building, and it looks fine when you put it on a diagram and it's just squares, but I'm not seeing how this would all incorporate with these antiques and these remnants from the church incorporating into a very modern facility.
Yeah, it's actually, there's quite the movement now to incorporate older traditional type elements into new modern design, and really blend the two aesthetics of those environments. And it really provides a unique feel to the buildings and facilities.
And then my final question is more directed towards how this will impact the college on parallel. Are classes and personnel going to be taken from that area? Or is this going to be a whole new cast and crew of people?
No, so we are one college with multiple locations, and this will be an additional location. We won't be duplicating programs. So the construction and the automation engineering manufacturing, they will relocate from the Technical Education Center at 6500 State Avenue. And that will open up space to put new programs in at our quote tech center. Some of our faculty who teach here will teach down in the new center, and we'll be hiring some new personnel to teach as well. So we're not going to duplicate programs, but we will be having a variety of offerings from existing personnel, plus the addition of those 16 people that you saw on the earlier figure.
Okay, thank you. And my final question is, oh, senioritis. It just went out of my head. Sorry. Don't laugh at me, David.
In there.
If I remember it, may I please come back to you?
Absolutely.
Yes, you may.
I have those moments myself.
Does anyone else have a question for Dr. Mosier?
Mr. Chairman, I have just a couple of questions.
All right.
Dr. Mosier, thank you for your presentation. I have seen it before, but I did not see the complete presentation, so I appreciate the opportunity to be able to see it. again today. Are there any plans to have the church independently surveyed for its structural soundness?
We could do that as well.
Okay.
And
And
I can answer, I apologize.
Go ahead,
Dr.
I'm sorry.
But I can answer that question. It's because it is a land bank property, it is the land bank's responsibility to conduct that type of analysis, and we've asked them to do that.
Oh, okay, okay.
Good.
And how many parking spaces will your garage accommodate?
So it's a combination of garage, and we're also changing the structure of the street parking as well. So the underground garage is not huge. It's about 50 spots.
Okay.
And then the currently State Avenue is 4 lanes, but it doesn't have the traffic for 4 lanes. So we're talking with UG staff on making that diagonal parking on both sides of the street, which adds a significant number of parking spots there. The same on 6th Street. On Nebraska, we're looking at diagonal parking on 1 or 2 sides of the road. And 7th Street is also a designated highway, but we are looking at diagonal parking on 1 side of 7th Street, which may or may not be possible on 7th Street.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And Tony Privatera also has the garage on the other side of the street, which we would look at if need be.
Yes, I'm in the building adjacent to that lot. We're anxiously awaiting its completion.
Yes.
Is there any other commissioner comments?
Chair Meditz, I remembered my question.
All right, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. As you are well aware, Dean Mosier, we have a very large Catholic representation on the college campus as it is, with Professor Amons and Dean Kremer running our Catholic students group and holding mass when we're not in COVID. Is there going to be some sort of chapel made available where we could encompass a lot of these things on the new campus as well?
Currently, there's no design plan to include a chapel, although we do and we will continue providing space to community and student groups for having different denominational services.
Any other questions for Dr. Mosier? If not,
Yes,
I
I
do.
do. Commissioner, this is Commissioner Schrader.
Yes, Commissioner Schrader.
Hi, again, thank you, Dr. Mosier. Excellent presentation. I enjoyed everything that you were able to tell us about, plans that you would have to honor the history of the church. One thing that I know that this is not an action item for us tonight, but we definitely appreciate getting all this information from you. I am very interested in, when this does come before us as an action item, what kind of documentation you would be able to provide in terms of exactly what provisions would be made to preserve the history of the church. My preference is to save the church. I realize as a retired architect the challenges of doing that, and I see that the reality may not allow that to happen. But we'll know more, obviously, after a structural analysis has been done and more study has been looked at. But given the possibility that the church may not be able to remain, I think it's very important for the college to proceed with, I hate to use the word guarantees, but something that really provides the community with this is what will happen to honor the history of this location. It's really important to me. This was made a landmark by the city back in the 70s, probably more for its cultural history than for its architectural history. However, the documentation that is now within the state records, even though we're not really registered on the state register, is really as an architectural item. This is probably the only remaining Gothic revival church in Wyandotte County. It's an excellent example of that, both inside and outside. So it's got an architectural heritage that you've talked a lot about trying to preserve, but the cultural heritage, I think, is also something that needs to really be emphasized with your presentation as you move forward. The congregations that built and were in this church, I mean, the church is 133 years old, the building's 133 years old. I mean, they go back to the very beginnings of this county. The Wyandottes, the entire story of bleeding Kansas, North versus South, and all of those things are really embodied in the history of this church. That 1915 book or pamphlet or whatever, I don't know exactly what you want to call it, I've seen it online, is so interesting and so telling about the history of the people who built this church and what came before them and what's the heritage that they have left. And then the fact that it served as an African American church in its later years, just brings an extra added interest to the cultural heritage that it embodies. So I think that it's really important that the college recognizes that and keeps that going just as much as the architectural heritage. So that's just my commentary. And again, I really, really appreciate what you're trying to do for us as the Landmark Commission, but also what you're going to do for the community. You lay out a really good background for why a community education center downtown is going to be such a boon to this whole metropolitan area, actually. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for that information. And I'm taking notes on that so we can bring that, because one of my questions is what next steps the commission would like to see and a timeline. I see there's the next deadline date is March 23rd for a May meeting. But if we're looking at doing some structural engineering examinations of it, that we probably want to look at a later timeline. But what would the commission want to see as next steps?
Are there any further questions for Dr. Mosier? If not, I have a couple, 3 questions or comments for you, sir.
Thank
One is, I appreciate, as Commissioner Schrader said, everything that's being done. I think it is deserving, etc., but I have some reservations. Are you, at one point in time, Kansas City, Kansas was very viable in the downtown. The largest banking commercial center in the metro area. That's where it's located. That church held a number of national conventions, community meetings, vibrant speakers from senators to governors, congressmen, etc., in citywide meetings. It was a center of culture and civic organizations. That began to change. And there is a map of the J.C. Nichols Corporation of the Kansas City area, which points out Wyandotte County to be nothing but a worker bee community. That attitude just sticks in my mind. rubs a little raw spot, so to speak. We're better than that. I understand what we need to do. I understand the jobs, exactly what we have. And I applaud that greatly. And I think we need that. But I also think we need to teach history to all of our constituents, new or old, those that can or cannot speak English, etc. I think they know our history. And I think this is important. And this could be a centerpiece. The fact that you use the word tribute, I think is great. But in the front of the old library was a tribute to Spanish American War veterans in the terms of a shell from the USS Maine. I don't think there's anybody on this commission could tell you where that shell is now. Too many times we put out tributes that within 10, 15 years, even 20 years, nobody understands that. Not to belabor it, but you're working with the organization that did the wall at Union Station, the PGAV.
Yes.
My first words were Twain, according to my mother. All right. But I am not impressed with that wall. I mean, I go right by it. So do thousands of other people, and they never look at it, or if they do not absorb the importance in it. That is my concern of losing this building. We've lost too many downtown. How do we save it? If we can, maybe not. Can we incorporate it? Can't we? That is just my concerns. My mind is open.
Sure.
That's just my concerns, because that's my responsibility and our responsibility as a commission to preserve the history of Wyandotte County, and especially the old history that we have lost and lost and lost and are losing fast. Okay, I'm done. Anybody else have a question for Dr. Mosier?
That's
If
okay.
not, Dr. Mosier, you want to know the next step.
Oh, I did. I'm
Next
sorry.
step. Somebody made a comment?
That was me, David. Was just thinking within the curriculum that we currently have at the college, here's two little tidbits, I think, in which we could address those ideas is either in blue or US History 1877 and on. If we could put some sort of personal touch of the history of that building incorporated into either one of those standing classes. I don't know if that's a possibility. It's just a hip shot.
That's just a thought. We're passing it on, Dr. Mosier, etc. Again, you wanted to know our next step. You said there were some things going on here the later on this month. I am going to include you or on our next agenda, and that would be our April meeting, first meeting, for any updates that you would like to provide. And so that at least gets you on our agenda for our April Landmarks Commission meeting. And I look forward to hearing from you and what goes on. And we will do our best to work with you.
Very good. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the open and direct dialogue, because that's the way I prefer to work as well. So we all know what we need to do. So that's very, very helpful. Mr. Hand, or from someone, any direction on pursuing a structural engineer? We're working with some, now for student housing and other areas. Is there a preferred person to work with, or can we have someone go down and do that?
I would just ask, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. I would just ask that you coordinate directly with the Land Bank Department. That would be Judd Knapp.
Can you say the name?
J-A-N, his name is Judd Knapp, K-N-A-P-P, J Knapp at wykokck.org.
Okay,
He's the Land Bank Coordinator. The Land Bank is currently housed in the Economic Development Department, so I'm sure you know Catherine Carter as well. She'd
Yeah.
be someone to coordinate with that as well. And we've had some internal communications about that specifically where, as I mentioned before, because it is a UG Land Bank property, you know, very often we get mostly like single family homes, right? And when the Land Bank was doing all that stuff with land clearance and single family homes, all of them had to get some structural review before they were deemed dilapidated and slapped with a sticker and or demoed, right? So this is totally different use, much larger building than typically what we see in Land Bank, but it's still the same protocol, right? If there's fear that it's going to fall over, it's our responsibility to find out what is required to maintain it, not rehab it, but maintain it. And so I know that they are working on that, but I'm sure a squeaky wheel would get the grease, Dr. Moser.
all right, that sounds very good, thank you. And I would just reassure you that the college really is dedicated to do a wonderful job of preserving the history of this church in a very meaningful way, both literarily and structurally and everything that the commission has spoken to tonight. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Mosier.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I as well.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mosier. And at this point, Madam Secretary, I think we are moving on back to consideration of the minutes, February 1st, 2021, Landmarks Commission. My dear commissioners, those have been transmitted to you. If you've had a chance to review those, I would entertain a motion to approve or amend or deny those minutes.
Chairman Meadows, this is Commissioner Hill. I would make a motion to approve the minutes as provided by the wonderful Miss Janet Parker.
Commissioner Schrader, seconds.
Thank you. I will at this point say that those minutes have been approved, but I should have asked our dear Secretary, Ms. Parker, did we have a quorum?
I guess we do.
All right, those minutes are approved.
Did you ask for a vote?
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Come on, this is not a dictatorship here.
Why not? Don't you run it?
Okay, Mr. Chairman, our first application here is Certificate of Appropriateness, CA 2021-3 for Brian Lockett. Certificate of Appropriateness for the replacement of siding, windows, and roofing, second floor addition in the rear at 1052 Laurel Avenue, commonly known as the Townsend House, located within the Parkwood Historic District, listed as a Kansas City, Kansas Historic District on August 25th, 1988. And Mr. Lockett is with us, and I'm going to move him over.
Janet, could you wait
as
just a minute
a-
on that? This is Commissioner Hill. Before we
Uh-huh.
moved on, I wanted to say something about or are we going to have time later to discuss as a group what was said with our discussion with Dr. Mosier?
As time allows, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll hold that till later, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Continue, Madam Secretary.
Mr. Lockett, I have promoted you to a panelist, so you can make your presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Lockett. Would you like to continue making your presentation if you are still with us?
Yes, sir. I'm still with you guys. I am going to be rehabbing 1052 Laurel Avenue. I have owned this property for a couple years now, and I just decided to go ahead and fix it. So I was going to originally keep it for myself, but I found another good historical property that I prefer to move in aside from this one. So I'm just going to fix this one up and bring it, restore it back to life, and to its to its original condition. It's hopefully I can keep it. It'll stay there for another 100 years or so. I'm doing an addition on the rear of the property right here, as you can see. I'm just going to extend over and and go up to the second floor, so I can add more living space to the house. And I'm going that the rear part of the roof, I'm be making kind of a dormer to extend it out, because it's an attic upstairs, and I need to add more space upstairs in the attic, so I could probably put another HVAC system in the house, so it can flow, so I can have one from the basement that heats and cools the first floor, and then the top one will heat and cool the attic and the second floor. And I'm doing a deck on the back. Other than that, everything will aesthetically stay looking the same from the view. And then also right here, you see a picture of the garage. You can see that the brick is coming away from the original structure. It's coming loose. So we have to, I'm gonna try to bring it back together, bring it back in and pull it back in. I've already put a brand new garage door on there, and I was gonna put lap siding or some smart siding on there, just to do it, and then put the windows back and just to try to restore it to its original condition. I've already cut trees all around there, as you can see from the fence. In the left-hand picture, I've already cut a lot of the trees, and then cut trees over the driveway so that you can see it. And just the fascia and the soffit on here, I'm just going to wrap it with some smart trim and a smart soffit, and just make it look just more up to date. And I think that's really it. Oh, all the windows. The brick is going to stay the same. All the windows I'm going to keep to their original dimensions. All the windows will be to its original dimensions. And then on the main house, again, I will all the windows in the back will be on its original dimensions, I believe. And then I will make them for sure that they will be egress windows, because I don't think these ones that are up top, these are egress windows right here. So.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
At this point, is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this certificate? Hearing none. Is there any comments from staff?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
As Mr. Lockett had said, there's 6 or 7 main items that are being either replaced or rehabilitated. So we've covered the roofing, which will change in color, soffit, fascia, gutters will all change in color and material. All the trim will be white to black, and then the house will be, the roof will be a mixed brown now. If you saw in the notes that me and Mr. Lockett will be nailing down the exact color later on, but it will be a brown of some sort. Siding will be replaced with material samples that he has provided. the expansion. Again, it was not in this slide, but it was in the report. You could see the north elevation, the proposed elevations for the new expansion with windows that complement but do not mimic the current style of the house, in order to prevent a false sense of historicness. Again, there will be doors. The only doors that will be replaced are the two that are in the back, and you can see one of them in the right-hand picture on this slide. They will be replaced as part of the addition, and a sliding door in its place. A rear deck will be added onto the end. Again, that was shown in the proposed north elevation. And then lastly, the garage was addressed as well. Again, we stipulated that the roofing and siding match the replacement roofing and siding that will go on the house, which is just standard code or zoning code anyways for R1 properties.
Thank you, Mr. Farley.
Welcome.
Does any of my fellow commissioners have a comment or a question?
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Schrader. I have some questions for Mr. Lockett, excuse me, Brian. First of all, I applaud you for the work that you're planning to do here. I think it's exciting, and I'm sure your neighbors are going to very much appreciate it there on Laurel. Laurel's a really nice street. I'm just really pleased that this house is going to be fixed up. I do have a couple of questions. I noticed on the east two-story portion of the house, those casement windows currently have divided lights, and I couldn't tell from your plans. Will you have divided lights on the replacement casements for those on that east side of the house? I don't know this shows very well in the pictures that are presented tonight, but I think you can see it from the front of the front of the house. Yeah, they have divided lights there.
Yes, sir. We will have the buttons, all of those windows. They're reflected, and we've already got the exact number to where it would be to reflect the exact number of window buttons in there. As far as the pattern, we've already identified them, and they will match it.
Great. Then another thing that I noticed, it's hard to see in some of these photographs, there's little braces on the eaves going up the sides and the front of the house.
Yes, sir.
Actually on the sides of the house. Are you going to replace those too, or keep those? Just curious.
Well, I don't think they need to be replaced.
Well, yeah, and then I'm sure they're more decorative than they are structural, but.
Right. So if you recommend that I keep them, I will.
It would be good. I mean, as the staff pointed out, that's not specifically mentioned in any of the documentation for the house, but the photographs do show them, and I think it's a nice, unique feature of the house. Again, it's not, I doubt if it's structural. I'm sure it's more decorative. And I was just curious if you were going to keep them.
No, I will keep them, sir, as long as I don't think it would hinder me from doing the soffit on there, because like I said, we can take it off and then put it right back on there and go right up under it. So it wouldn't hinder it whatsoever.
Okay, I was more curious than anything. So,
yes, sir. That's a good question too. I thought about that one.
Janet, could you show us what Jim is asking about by photo, if please?
Go on to the next page, and I think you can see it much more easily. One more page, Janet. Oh, sorry, it's the one that shows there. Those things up there. Yeah.
Yeah, so, those are more decorative than actual structural.
Right, but it's a little unique thing about the roof.
Yes, sir. I understand.
And as they said, the roof has a lot of interesting features to it. It's one of the interesting features of the house, that and the stonework. So, okay, thank you. Thanks for asking, Commissioner Hill.
All right, is there anyone else that has a question?
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to speak out of order, but I was wondering if I would have one more minute just to point out another feature.
You sure may.
All right, well, thank you. I forgot to mention that with the rear addition, one of the chimneys on the house will be demolished. You can see on the rear photo there. Yes. So staff has determined that that would be an acceptable demolition. It does not match the other two stone chimneys, which are much more unique to the house and fit the stone facade that complements the first floor around around three of the sides, as well as running up the east elevation there. So just want to point out that there will be a chimney demolished in the addition.
Thank you, sir. I do appreciate that. And I will apologize to anyone that has happened to lost me. Is we are having some technical difficulties here. Am I still with you?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Okay, well, I can't see you, so you may not be able to see me. I'm not that pretty anyway. All right,
Mr. Chairman, are you ready for a motion? If so, I move that we approve this certificate of appropriateness as stated in the language that was sent out.
I second.
it has been moved and seconded that we approve the certificate of appropriateness of CA 2021-003 in the language that has been put forward by the Unified Government staff.
With the addition of the braces as mentioned by Commissioner Schrader, please.
I will accept that.
All right, at this point, Madam Secretary, I will call for a vote.
Could I get clarification as to who seconded the motion, please?
French.
Thank you. Okay, Bland,
Aye.
Chamberlain? I don't think he's on with us tonight. Craddock,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
French,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Schrader,
Aye.
Van Middlesworth.
He's not on either.
Oh, his name is there, but it's muted.
Let me find, give him, he was on with us.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I'm here.
Okay. Did you vote aye?
I did, aye.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, that motion to approve this application, subject to the revised conditions, passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Lockett.
Thank you, Mr. Lockett.
Oh, you're welcome. Can I say one thing real quick?
Yes, you may.
You don't mind? Me and Michael was talking the other day. I just want to thank you guys again for approving this. And he brought this to my attention that I have rehabbed more historical houses and brought them back to life than any rehabber have so far. I think I've done 8. So I hate the tedious process, but I love the end result. As far as trying to bring the revitalization back to Wyandotte County, since I am a KCK kid. So I just want to thank you guys again.
Well,
Thank
please,
you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
please keep up the good work.
Yeah, thank you. I will try to.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
All right. We're moving on. It's a little longer meeting tonight, but Commissioner Schrader, do you have a report on our outreach subcommittee?
I do. Our downtown outreach subcommittee did not meet. However, I do have a little bit of information. In some discussions with staff, I know that the staff has had a meeting with Rosen and Associates. They are the consultant that the UG used primarily for the downtown study, and the Rosen and Associates is going to provide some budgetary numbers for what it would take to get the downtown commercial district ready and sent to get the National Register listing and get the National Register listing. So so that is moving forward, which is great to hear. That's kind of the main thing that I have to report. I did understand also that something that I had not really understood, some of the items that were listed in the 2016 downtown survey are potential properties that could get individual listings. These would be properties that are basically outside the downtown district that we've been talking about so much, but some of those might actually be able to be added on to statewide multiple property description lists. Some of the buildings up and down state and Minnesota that originally were automotive properties. Some of them are like pretty cool Art Deco buildings, actually. Could become part of a, I think it's called roadside attractions or something. It's a statewide listing of historical properties, and that might be something that those individual owners might be able to take advantage of. So that's interesting, something that we might be able to follow up on. So that's our report. I do think that given the information we received tonight from the community college, that I may want to try to call a subcommittee meeting for this month, but I'll talk with all of you and with staff, and we'll do that. Oh, and then yes, I see the flyer put up here. I hope everybody had a chance to look at the flyer that got distributed with the documentation tonight. I had suggested some revisions, and looks like that those got kind of incorporated. So I would urge everybody to take a look at this flyer, and if there's anything you see that you'd like to see emphasized or changed or whatever, please let staff know as soon as possible, because we'd like to be able to start using this as we go out and talk to property owners around the area. So thanks again to staff for doing this.
Thank
That's
you,
all, Commissioner.
thank you, Commissioner.
I think everybody's got a question though.
Yeah, yes,
I
thank
don't,
you.
I don't have my video up, Madam,
Okay.
Madam Secretary. Did you trash my video?
I'll be your eyes for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim, for pointing that out, and thanks for the report. I just had a couple of questions. Well, actually, one main question, where it says that there are no specific protections or benefits for properties outside the yellow line. So they're subject to requirements or to passing the Landmarks Commission approval for anything that's done. But
Yeah,
they
I think Director Hand, could you kind of explain what happens when an environs property comes before staff?
Sure. Again, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. So I think what we're trying to highlight here is specific to downtown is what we have is a bunch of designated landmarks that have a buffer around them, the environs review. And most of downtown is within an environs review. So it has to go through an administrative process, not too dissimilar of a C of A, but it just doesn't make it through the Landmarks Commission. So we do a review of all those properties for anything that they want to do. We work with the applicants to move it around like we did with Mr. Lockett today. We just don't have to take them to Landmarks Committee. So you have to go through all essentially the same steps, administrative granted, but essentially the same steps. But if you're not designated and if you're not in a district, if you're only in environs, which is most of downtown, they get no economic benefits. There's no tax write-offs for an environs property, but all the same administrative review. If you create a district, all those buildings that were previously just in other landmarks environs, become a part of a district that can benefit from economically from grants and tax credit programs to get rehabbed. So the point that we're trying to make it in this case specific to downtown is right now you're getting all the review and no benefit. So we want you to get all the review and all the benefit by creating a district.
Okay, I got you.
I can reword that if that's
I got you.
a little too much. So yeah, no, we can, that makes it, it's a good point to raise. We can
Yeah,
clarify for that
you
way.
might see if there's a way to tweak the wording there, but
Yeah.
you know, good point. Thank you, Beverly.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hand. Any other comments on this subject? If not, I would like to, with the blessing of my commissioners, just skip down to item number 3 instead of number 2, which is the finalized economic benefits of the historic designation flyer and Director Hand. Both of these fall hand in hand. Is there any further comments you'd like to make, Director Hand?
Nope.
Does my fellow commissioners approve, disapprove, etc. of this flyer as been presented? I would like to take action on it tonight if we could.
Do we really need to take action on it? I mean, I think we can. I just didn't know whether it was necessary. Janet's shaking her head no.
Yeah, you don't do this.
We need to take no action on it. Well, I think
Mr. Chair, I would just ask, maybe we'll take Commissioner Easterwood's comments into consideration. If there are any other comments, I think maybe if we could just set a timeline by the end of this week, if you could submit your final comments, and then we'll just call it a day.
that's acceptable to me.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, let's move on to the update from Commissioner Hill on the Vietnam Korean Memorial. Commissioner Hill.
Just a sec, I'm writing.
Oh,
I'm a furious note taker, so sorry.
I am too, but I can't read them.
Thank you, everyone. Chair Meditz and I met with Mr. Gunnar Hand and 2 people from the Parks Department. And I'm sorry, but their names escape me at the moment. But they were an incredible asset of background information, which they also provided in copy from the Parks Department to Mr. Hand and then to Janet to distribute to us, which I honestly have not had a chance to go all the way through. I just glanced at it. But the bottom line is whatever we do, it has to be done through the Parks Department for approval, and then it goes through the Wyandotte County Parks Foundation for approval with that. If Commissioner Meditz, would you correct me if I was mistaken about that?
Continue.
Thank you, sir. And we were looking at whether we were going to have to get a private 5013C done for this, whereas I would not want to be personally liable for the funds. If we needed funds raised, and then we could not take it under the commission to raise funds directly and be in charge of them. So that was one of the issues we needed to look at. The last time this was rehabbed was back in 2000, and we were given the contact information for the previous people who did some of that restoration work. It's just a matter right now of reaching out to them. The Parks Board agreed with the things that I brought up and Chair Meditz brought up as what needed to be addressed on this property. And our plan of action is to present to the Park Board, then we would need to present to the foundation, and from there to the commission for any action we would pursue on this project.
Commissioner Hill, this is Commissioner Schrader.
Yes, sir.
About just before this was constructed, I actually was chair of the Wyandotte County Parks Foundation, so it's been a long time ago. But I know the way that it's set up, that they could accept funds and administer the funds for it. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. But I think everything else you talked about is probably the process that needs to happen. But as far as being able to accept and disperse donated funds, that is a primary purpose of the Wyandotte County Parks Foundation. So
Okay.
they definitely should be able to do that.
One further comment, Commissioner Hill. I believe out of that meeting, I believe the Parks Department was going to try to contact Bloom Monument.
Yes, sir. You're correct.
Some of the previous work and to get an assessment of what would be needed and possibly the associated information, costs, etc., but what it would take for the restoration of that. So that is an ongoing process. And at this point, I will just add you again to our next commission meeting here next month. And we'll just try to keep updated on it to keep our eye on the ball.
Yes, and we also have a meeting set up with the pertinent people as well later this month. The date escapes me right off the top of my head. Janet, if you recollect perchance, or Gunnar.
That was Mike Connor.
Yes,
We have a meeting with Mike Connor on the 18th of March.
thank you. So
On
we
the
have a
18th.
follow-up meeting on the 18th with Mike Connor, who, as I understand, was the director of Parks and Rec when this was originally built. And then the young lady who is taking over for him, they are working hand in hand to help us and have been very nice and very helpful, as well as Gunnar's staff to go ahead and go through all the material that was sent over and provide us scannings of it. Thank you, Gunnar.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Hill.
Yes, sir.
If there's no further comments, I will move on to item number 4, which is the SHPO grant report by Director Hand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design. Following up on Mr. Commissioner Schrader's presentation about the outreach committee, we have had a couple of follow-up conversations internally at the UG, both around Downtown Historic District after having that conversation with Rosen Associates, who did the 2016 survey for downtown, as well as some follow-up issues about how the UG is going to proceed with Sour Castle. So in my, when we did some investigation about what it would cost to do, what it would entail, I should say, to do a countywide survey, we're talking easily millions of dollars. Something that I think after thinking about it and describing the work that would entail, even if it was just for a subset of something as opposed for every parcel in the county, it's still a huge amount of work that if you take the 2016 survey of downtown as an example, it's taken us 5 years to follow up on even that very specific survey. So to do a countywide survey, the worry is all of that information and data would fall out of use faster than we could execute a strategy to go after another district or another designation or so on and so forth. So by multiple people in the historic preservation world, they think the idea of doing a countywide survey is very important, but probably impractical for multiple reasons. So what I would like is to request that the Landmarks Commission instead endorse a pursuit with the Kansas SHPO grant application for 2 projects instead of one countywide. I would propose that we do one around this historic district in downtown, and then one for what's going on in Sour Castle. And I'll elaborate on each of those individually very specifically. So in downtown, what we've decided we need done to move forward with the 2016 survey is, number one, update that survey. 5 years is, as per the experts, 5 years is enough time that you need to go and double check every property and make sure there hasn't been a demo, an addition, or other projects. It's a quick review, but it's one that's pretty, they said was a critical first step. Doesn't cost a lot of money, but it's certainly something that needs to happen before you can move forward. And then they recommend we pursue a commercial district, as well as this separate district of other similar properties, that a group of properties that Mr. Schrader explained. Those will probably most likely look like historic Black churches in and around downtown. Its own multiple listing, not a district, but its own multiple listing. And what we would try to do would be for the commercial district, as well as this multiple listings, we would apply for not just a local money, not just for a local historic district or designation, but state and federal as well. So that's one sort of package of things we would go after in a grant request from SHPO. And then the second one, there's been some developments, as we've discussed, around Sour Castle. We have confirmed that the wine cellar and the parcel of land that was the vineyards for Sour Castle directly to the south is now a land bank parcel. And to move preservation efforts around that property forward, the recommendation from other experts in the field were, we need to update that existing designation. The current designation for Sour Castle is just for the castle, and it's just based on architecture, I believe. What we need to do, and the recommendation was, we need to go back into that designation and expand it to include the grounds thereof. So it's the building and the grounds. And that is another sort of smaller project for sure, but certainly another project that could move a critical historic effort issue forward in the UG. And that one, again, would look at just updating the existing designation with somebody. Again, wouldn't be necessarily too much money, would take certainly some time. There would be consideration and a potential study around that, where we maybe look at the adjacent property as well, because the caretaker's house could be a part of those grounds of Sour Castle, just like the wine cellar could be sort of a larger piecing of things together. And then by doing that, we not only create better protections, we also create sort of a larger scope of what we could potentially do with that property moving forward, to save it, to reclaim it, to buy it, to do whatever we need to do with it. And so that's kind of another next step we thought we could identify. So with the City Landmarks Commission approval, I would request that instead of going after a countywide survey for this grant program, we go after those two specifically. And we need to do that before the end of this month.
Point of clarification, please. The African American churches, is that one that you are recommending be included in with the other one, or?
It'd be one of the three-pronged approach for downtown. Update the survey, go for a commercial district, and do this multiple listings of the churches in downtown.
Okay.
And again, most of those listings are already local landmarks, but they're not state or federal.
Right.
And that gives you more, one,
Tax
it
benefits,
gives you,
everything.
yeah, right.
I know.
Gives you more protection. It also gives you potentially more benefits, as we just talked about, for the economic, the tax incentives and stuff like that. So yes, that would definitely be a part of it.
Thank you, Gunnar.
As another side note, Mr. Chair, and this is not, and I'm going to say this, yes, Rosen and Associates, we're still muddling through this with the UG, but Rosen and Associates has also offered a summer intern to help us with all of this potentially. So if we approve these, and we did get approval, they have an internship program. They bring people for the summer, and they dedicate that one intern for the summer to do one pro bono project. And they floated the idea that they would be willing to submit that intern to the UG for assistance this summer. So there's some timeliness to that. It may or may not work out in terms of timing. It may or may not work out because of these grants. It might be something we want to pursue or not pursue, and maybe could do something else with. But I definitely said, yes, we'll take that, but please let me figure out if we can officially accept that. And we'll get back to them. So I just wanted to put that out there as well. As I think we're trying to, this is all part of our larger effort, I think, to, again, this region is dominated by Kansas City, Missouri, and historic preservation efforts in Kansas City, Missouri. Most of the regional historic, not our historic society, but other like Preserve KC and stuff are very much Kansas City, Missouri focused. So I think this is part of our larger narrative to expand people's understanding that there are historic things to be preserved outside of Kansas City, Missouri, right? And so I think that's, having this dialogue with Rosen was a part of it. Expanding who we talk to some of these issues with outside of the UG is a part of that. And I think we've already seen potential benefits if we can get this intern.
That's great.
Thank you for your comments. As chairman at this point, I don't think I need to recluse myself, but I do want to make it known up front. I am the past president of the Wyandotte County Historical Society. My dear wife is the president. And I do know that information has come forward to me from a board meeting the other night that the Historical Society is writing or putting together a, in conjunction with the museum, a letter in favor of the expanded historical designation for Sour Castle.
Okay, great.
So I just wanted to bring that forward, clear, etc.
Why
Okay,
you leave me out, David?
what was that?
This is French. I said, why you leave me out? I'm also on that and I recruit.
I only speak for myself, madam.
This time. May I make notice, Janet, that I did sign in for the meeting at 6:02, but for some reason my video was not there. I heard everything. I could see everyone but myself. So I just wanted to make that note to you.
All right, do we want to take some action endorsing the proposals of Director Hand?
Yes.
Yes,
All right, I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Motion.
yeah, I think that Commissioner Hill and I jointly move, I don't think that's official, but anyway, yes, to approve what Director Hand is doing. I would like a friendly amendment that we are simply indefinitely postponing a countywide survey. We're not giving up on one, but we're not going to pursue a grant for that at this time. So
I second what he said.
Madam Secretary, if you have that down correctly, I will call for a vote on it.
Okay, Bland,
Aye.
Craddock,
Aye.
Easterwood,
he said aye. I'm sorry.
okay, French,
I'm sorry. I was on mute.
French,
Aye.
Hill,
Aye.
Schrader,
Aye.
Van Middlesworth.
He's on mute.
Aye.
Okay,
Got that?
Is Farley still here?
I don't know.
Chairman, that motion passes 7 in favor and none opposed.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And thank you very much to my fellow commissioners. Thank you for the support that we are giving to our support staff downtown. Moving on, the last item that we have tonight is the consideration of the resolution to the Board of Commissioners asking their support and backing to preserve the architectural, cultural, and ethnic heritage of the county. I believe we talked about that last session. And I do not recall, Madam Secretary, did we make any kind of motion at that point in time?
No, we did not talk about it. Our dictator, he tabled it.
At that point, we've got a long meeting tonight there, and I know everyone is tired. Is there anyone that wants to consider this tonight, or I will put it back on the table for our next month?
I would suggest that we just go ahead and take a vote on it because unless I'm mistaken, everyone was very clear on the intent of this. And unless anybody objects, I say we move on it.
I'd like to think we would think about it. I think we need more than just this one statement, unless I missed something. I know we talked about it and I missed the last meeting, technical difficulties. But anyway, I'd like for us to discuss it in April. That's my concern.
Commissioner French, thank you.
Chairman Meditz, this is Commissioner Schrader. I'm totally in favor of it, but I want to make sure our expectation, I mean, what are our expectations that the Board of Commissioners is going to do any differently than what they're doing today? So, I mean, I think that's the discussion we need to have.
Right.
I'm all in favor of it, but
All right.
what's going to happen? What do we expect to happen?
At this point, I will continue this as an item on our April agenda.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
This is Gunnar Hand, Director of Planning and Urban Design again. I think maybe it would help if instead of in April discussing whether we do or do not want to pass a resolution, I think it might be informative if you all tried to craft the language of a resolution.
Right.
And went through that exercise as a mechanism to get you ready to vote. And then when it was all tuned up, you guys could vote on it. I mean, I'm assuming this is like a whereas this and whereas that statement kind of thing. I mean, you should write it.
Spell it out.
Correct.
I'm sorry, I thought we already had that. My apologies, Commission.
I could be wrong. I've never seen it.
No,
No,
we didn't. We just were general discussion. So at this point, we will continue this at our April meeting.
Would you want me to draft something just for you guys to respond to?
No, that's
Well, I would appreciate your input, and that would be very helpful.
sounds
Let me
great.
just try to get staff to outline something. It's not going to be anywhere near what's in your head because I don't know what's in your head, but it'll be something on paper you can look at and talk about, right? And then go from there.
I do appreciate that, Director Hand. And
It's
to
a
comment
very
on
scary
what is
place.
in my head, there's some people that say not much. All right, I would like to thank everyone for their participation tonight. But
Mr.
before I
Chairman?
adjourn, Madam Secretary.
I believe that Commissioner Hill requested time at the end of the meeting to discuss Dr. Mosier's presentation.
You are correct. And I will go to that immediately here. But one item I would like to bring up that I would like included on the agenda for or order of business for April is 2 cemeteries, the status of Woodlawn and Oak Grove in terms of their historical designation. Because of these are under the unified government control at this point. They are on their advertised website, but Woodlawn is totally almost inaccessible. So I believe we need to have some discussion on that in our April meeting. If you would put that on the agenda, Madam Secretary. At this point, Commissioner Hill is asked for some time to discuss the presentation of Dr. Mosier. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Chair Meditz. I not only have a vested interest in this because I am a history buff and I am very in favor of this county, and preserving our history. But also I am, if you did not know, a student at KCKCC. I just started getting my college education at 48. So I have a lot of reservations about this plan and how it might impact the existing college facilities. I know that's not relevant to our scope, but I think it is something to be considered, as well as our obligation to the services that are already within the community. There's just a few things that I worry that this is too much of a kettle of fish, and it's going to then ensure that things that we already need to have taken care of at KCKCC are not addressed. That their focus will then become exclusively this new campus to the detriment of the existing campus and the satellite places that we have on State Avenue that used to be Walmart and the car dealerships. So I just wanted to put that out there and hear what anyone else had, if they had any thoughts on that.
Well, one of the things that is fortunate or unfortunate is, as far as the Landmarks Commission goes, we have to keep our decisions within the scope of about 10 items that are basically designated by statute, law, etc. If you notice, as we go through each one of our CAs, there are a number of items during each CA that has a number beside it. And that is what we have to base our decisions on as a commission, or what we can literally take action on. Now, we can voice a support or denial of a certain project, but we have no teeth, or we cannot approve or deny it other than if it falls within those like 10 items.
And I understand that, Chair Medit. I was just outside the box, as we are all community advocates here, what my fellow commissioners may have thought, feelings, that sort of thing. So I'm just looking for some input from you folks.
Commissioner Held, and Chair Medits, this is Commissioner Schrader. First of all, Mickey, I can get you some contact information for several of the trustees, board of trustees at the community college. I think that your concern would be best to address to them directly. The folks that I'm thinking about are very approachable. They would love to hear from you as both a constituent and a student about your concerns, and they could answer those questions for you probably best. You know, their responsibility is to make sure that the direction of the college is the way it needs to be going. So I'll send those to you. In reference to what Chair Medits talked about, I agree 100%. I think that behind the scenes, there's been a lot of work to get the presentation that we saw tonight to happen. And I think it's really to our benefit, because not only are we limited in the way that we can act, but basically we are a reactive organization by ordinance. We'd like to be proactive, and by what happened this evening allowed us to be a little bit more proactive. So I think this was a really good thing to have happened this evening. I think that there's still a long way to go. I think we all felt that Dr. Mosier And the college was doing a good job to say, we want to try to do this, we want to try to do that, we want to try to do this. And I think that's commendable. But I'd like to push him as far as we can push him.
Agreed.
Virtual thing, again, reality may be that the building may not be salvageable. That may just be reality. It pains me to even say that, but anyway, so I think that's enough to be said from my point of view. But I do think that I really like the fact that we're going to put him on the agenda for next month, and even if it's just a short update, but keep the college aware that we want to preserve the heritage. We understand progress. It's very important. I mean, history is ongoing. It's not just something that is in a book from 100 years ago.
That's right.
So, and that's what I would love, is if there was a way that the college, I mean, your point out that, teach this in history would be fantastic. There's a way that whatever they do, helps speak to the future by looking at the past. What's the future of this county when you look at where we've come from? I mean, again, I'm not a dot, but I'm totally fascinated by the unique history that this county has. It is fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Well, and that's why I suggested 2 of those existing classes. For those of you that don't know, the first history class I mentioned is a second post reconstruction course that they do at the college. The second one is called Blue 101, and which indoctrinates, if you will, you to the college setting, the college environment, and the college itself. And either one of those would be a great venue to highlight the history of the 7th Street AME.
Mhm.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner Hill, Commissioner Schrader.
Thank you, sir.
I will leave you with these final comments before I adjourn us. The community college used to have a course on Wyandotte County history.
Mhm.
It no longer has it.
Nope.
Okay, that is a detriment to this community. I don't care whether one person takes it or 20. The other one is there is a difference between the community college and the Landmarks Commission. There's a difference between each and all of us. And that is 2 words: tribute, community college, and what we as a commission have to consider, and that is preservation. And there is our conflict, ladies and gentlemen, and how we rectify it. With those final comments, I will thank each and every one of you tonight, and I call for adjournment.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much for being patient with me.
Thank you for
Always.
Comments.
Great comments.